Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of, I guess it's a gun episode. I guess I saw this in the news. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with guns this year. And as you know, I recently bought my AR-15 pistol, and I plan on taking my AR-15 pistol everywhere I go with me. It's not leaving my side. Um, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, I truly feel that uh, the threat, the danger. I mean, it's bad enough that um, we have a world where it's almost set up um, where the conditions of the environment, social environment, is where there's potential danger with robberies and crime and rapists and murderers out there. And from my experience, it's from growing up. A little background on my experience with violence is when I was young, um, I had a home invasion. I think I was around, oh gosh, I must have been, I think I was like maybe 9 or 10. I think I was still in elementary school, and some people came and drove up to the driveway, and they basically had handguns, but they didn't even wear masks or anything. They just rocked right into the garage and right into and this is in California, by the way. They walked right in. They drove in the driveway. They got out of the car. I saw them from the living room because our living room there was a kitchen, and the kitchen was connected to the garage, and we always had the garage open and the door open because, especially in the summer, because um, you know, typically California homes don't have air conditioning because it's the weather, especially around the coastal areas, because the weather's really nice. Well, anyways, they drove up. They came out. They didn't even wear masks or nothing. They just came out. They had handguns. Came in the house, tied us up, put a gun to the, um, put a gun to my head, and 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 put a blanket over us, and it was kind of traumatic. Um, Now that I think about it, but I was kind of young. Anyways, so I lived half my life um, not owning a gun, and so uh, I kind of know what it's like to be a non-gun owner, especially in California. And from that point on, I always thought guns were bad, and only bad people would own guns. Um, Even though after that, I think our 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 family bought a gun after that, and Bob basically caged the house. We had cages, bars over the window and over the doors. After that, it wasn't like we weren't like in a really bad neighborhood. We were actually living in a suburb um, north of Los Angeles at the time, and anyways, that was my first experience with being a victim of gun violence. Okay. The second time I've ever experienced any kind of being a victim of a crime, I was at a park. I was a little bit older. I was like in my, I would say I was 18, 19 maybe. Was going to community college in Los Angeles, again in California. Um, well, anyways, some of my friends and I were hanging out at a park a little late at night, but we're just hanging out. I mean, we just were talking, enjoying ourselves, and two people came up. They kind of looked like gangbangers. Um, They didn't wear a mask or anything, but they kept their hand in their pocket and they came up to us and they threatened us, saying that they had a knife. And you know, even though we were outnumbered, just the fact that they said they had a knife kind of paralyzed us. And I think they started beating us up, like kicking us and everything, until one of our other friends came out of the car and saw that and started fighting back. And apparently, I guess they didn't have a knife. But you know, these are things that are traumatizing. And again, I didn't own a gun. I didn't own a gun. And in both cases, you know, of course, I'm a child and I'm barely of legal age. I didn't own a gun. And I realized something when that happened. And I didn't own a gun until much later in my life, way, way later in my life. Basically, when you see my Rossi revolver video, that's the first time I've ever owned a gun. So, and I have to tell you something. I live half my life without owning a gun, and I live probably the remainder half of my life owning a gun now. And I have to tell you, if I had a choice, if I really had a choice, because I've been a victim of gun violence, you could say that. And so, if I had a choice whether to own a gun or not own a gun, I would choose to have a gun. And not only would I choose to have a gun, I would choose to have it with me at all times. Because you never know. You never know when you might need it. Okay? Anyways, you know, what I can say from being alive so far is that you know, the world has gotten more dangerous, in my opinion. It's not safer. It's gotten more dangerous, and I have to say it's not because there's more guns in the world. I think a lot of it has to do with other factors. Okay, a lot of other factors. You're looking at what I would call perceived inequality, frustration with the state in particular. You know, if anything, that's probably causing more gun angst, anxiety over gun violence than the amount of guns being produced in the world. Matter of fact, I think there's more guns than there are people. So in theory, every man, woman, and child in America, technically, if you counted how many guns there are and then how many people there are, every man, woman, child would own a gun. But yet we don't kill each other every day, do we? Not really. Anyways, let me go on to this. Apparently, there's been some executive orders, and let me tell you first of all that the state cannot protect you. The president cannot protect you. Congress cannot protect you. The police cannot protect you. All right. What they can do, all right, and what they're trying to do is, you know, I'm assuming they're trying to take the guns away from people who shouldn't have guns, supposedly. But the problem is, no one can, you know, see into the future. And until that day happens where they can actually see into the future and know that someone will commit an act of crime, I don't see how you can ever prevent, you know, gun violence. you know, or any kind of crime. But here's what you can do. You can protect yourself. It is literally baked into the Constitution. All right, it can't be altered. It can't. Well, I guess it can be altered. The will of the people will obviously the Constitution has been amended. Some things have been put in, and I'll give you an example. Prohibition, and then the end of prohibition. So, it's not impossible to change the Constitution. But I just don't think, with the history of America and that banning the right to bear arms in a well-regulated militia is going to be amended, anytime soon. So, anyways, considering that I would say 90% of the states out there are basically free states versus captive states. Captive states being like California, New York, where they heavily restrict, your right to bear arms. So that's just not going to happen. So, anyways, let's take a look at some of these executive changes that supposedly are happening. And the reason why I say the president cannot protect you is because the executive powers that he has are very limited. All right, very, very, very limited. The only thing he can do is within the administration that he's in. That's the only thing he can do. But he can't change the law. He can't make a law. He can't even. He could. I don't know if he can make a law. Maybe he can propose a law. I don't know if he's even allowed to propose a law. But he could definitely sign into the law. All right. So, and he forces existing laws. All right, or laws that have come into creation during his administration, at least. So let's take a look at it, and a lot of it is, from what I've read, is nothing more than initiatives and a lot of hiring and a lot of proposing and a lot of letter writing to attorney generals. Nothing really solid, other than the fact that maybe they're going to hire more ATF agents. They're going to get more proposals from the FBI, hire more FBI agents for whatever, ballistics recording, promote mental health, quote unquote, mental health issues. And here's the website. Okay, the WhiteHouse.gov, the press office, 2006-01-04 fact sheet, new executive actions, reduce gun violence, and make our. They didn't really complete it. They should have said make our what? Lives miserable. So, anyways, so there you go. And there it is. Ironically, the day after Genesis Day. So, doing a lot of background checking, which, all is already being done. So I don't know. Legal gun purchases are already doing that. I don't know how much more you can do, but sure, yeah, keep guns out of the hands of wrong people by increasing background checks that I think people are already being done anyway. Make communities safer from gun violence. Basically, just going out there to the attorney generals. I mean, these are just executive actions. They don't really do anything. All right, they don't change the law. They don't do it. Basically, he's just within his own administration to the different regimes. The ATF, Homeland Security, Department of Defense. These are all different regimes of his administration, I guess you could call it. And of course, they stay as he goes, and someone else comes in, and so That's all it is. It's actually nothing here. There's nothing here that is really going to protect you. Okay. Here, another more mental health treatment. How do you determine someone is not mentally fit to own a gun? I mean, what point? What if you believe in something that doesn't exist? Are you mentally ill? Should you not own a gun? These are, and here's another thing: shape the future of gun safety technology. I don't know what that is. I can only try to get all sci-fi, and maybe there's some hand recognition on the handle of the gun that it would only allow the owner of the actual gun to be used. That might be one, but what if the owner of the gun is a terrorist? Does that help? No. I don't know. I don't know. This kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, are they going to make guns that maybe other people can deactivate? That'd be kind of weird. Like I wouldn't want, if our government, had this kind of safety feature, that'd be so dumb because it would only take, a hacker to go in and say, okay, I got the codes to deactivate all guns in the United States. And next thing you know, I mean, you're right for an invasion from a foreign entity, or even a domestic entity. So, and then okay, new actions by the federal government. Okay, keeping guns out of the hands of the wrong through background checks, which most legal purchases of guns are already done through that. So I don't know. He's going to give more money to the ATF, and give them a little bit more leeway in what they can do. I don't know how long that's going to last. That budget is only proposed to fiscal year of 2017. So I'm assuming that this is only a very short term, very very short term, like 1 year kind of one more year where you're going to have an increase, a buildup of more ATF agents, more FBI, more Homeland Security agents, more background employees, more whatever he's talking about, these background companies to give more money to them so they could process backgrounds 24/7, 7 days, 24 hours, 7 days a week. If that gives you any idea, if they need to increase the amount of people to keep up with the background checks, that should tell you how many people are purchasing guns right now. Because the state cannot protect you. All right? The state cannot protect you. The state cannot protect your children. The state cannot protect your wife, your family. I mean, that's my opinion. The state cannot protect you. But you know who can? You. You can protect yourself. You can protect your family, your children, your wives, your husbands, your mothers, your fathers, your brothers, your sisters. So as you read this, really this doesn't do a lot. I mean, it only does more of what is already being done, which doesn't really help, does it? I don't think so. More outreach for mental health issues, more money, more hiring for these other regimes, ATF, FBI, Homeland Security, Department of Defense. But what I find truly ironic throughout this whole thing, okay, what I find truly ironic throughout this whole thing is, let me see here if I can find it. Oh, and by the way, I do want to mention, let me see, where is this thing? There's a part, okay, I'm sorry if I'm scrolling through. There's a part in here where they talk about They want anybody who's engaged in the business of, quote unquote, business of selling firearms. Doesn't that sound familiar? If you've seen any of my YouTube videos on Bitcoin trading, they use the same wording, the business of virtual currency, or the, how do they say it? If you're in the business of virtual currency, um, let me see, engage in uh, uh, virtual currency business. If you're engaged in the virtual currency business, here they mention it as engage in uh, the business of firearms, quote unquote. Um, you know, to this day, I don't know if you need a license to sell your firearms to another person. I know in some states they require you to go through a dealer, and I would assume those dealers are already licensed. Um, I guess they're trying to say something about the, gun show, you have to be all that, but I don't buy my guns from the gun show, so I really don't care. Um, you know, maybe I will. I mean, who knows? I'm talking about going to a gun show and buying and selling guns and all that stuff, or trading guns and everything. But as far as I know, there's nothing that prevents one person from selling their property to another person, whether it be a gun, a car, a shoe, a house. Um, you know, so I don't know how that's going to play. Um, I don't know if this is even real. So I don't know if this is going to even help. So anyways, let me scroll down, and I'm going to read a very interesting part. Okay, let me see here. This is the interesting part about this whole thing, and they even write it in here, which is, this is so absurd in a lot of ways. Um, let me see here. So let me see here if I can find it. Please bear with me, because and I don't want to say it until you actually, I want to actually show it to you, because all right, so here's the part about, right, the if you're in the business of selling firearms, you must get a license and conduct a background. So clarify, it doesn't matter where you conduct your business, from a store, from a at a gun show, or over the internet. If you're in the business of selling firearms, you must get a license and conduct a background check, which typically that's what's being done. But as far as I know, you can't stop an individual from selling their property to another individual. Again, an unregulated area, where by law, under the Constitution, under limited, limited government, the state cannot engage in that kind of in that area. So, I don't know how this is going to turn out. This is going to be interesting. Anyway, that's one thing, but that's not what I really wanted to show you. Let me see here. Okay, where is it? Oh my gosh, I just saw it, and it's driving me nuts to see where it is. If I can't find it, I'll just tell you what I read. Let me see. Let me see. Okay. I think it's somewhere around. Okay, here it is. All right. So, as I mentioned earlier, like gun safety technology, like maybe have the handle of the gun only recognized through some kind of fingerprint reading of the owner of the gun, can only be using the gun. Well, would you really want that on your military? Something that can be programmed into the gun to whether fire or not to fire, depending on who's handling the gun. You know, if you think about it, what if there's a virus and it could be downloaded into these, you know, gun safety technology, and one day you go to war and you find out none of your gun works? I mean, this is not really a good idea. So anyways, the part I want to read to you is right here. All right, I'm going to even highlight it if I can. Let me see, highlight it. Okay, I'm going to highlight it. Oh yeah, this is going to be too. Oh yeah, this is wonderful. All right, so I have highlighted this particular section. And you know who the largest buyer of firearms in this country is? As the single largest purchaser of firearms in the country, the federal government has a unique opportunity to advance research and ensure the smart gun technology becomes a reality. And it is possible to do so in a way that makes the public safer and is consistent with the Second Amendment. Today, the President is taking action to further this work in the following way. And this is where we talk about, you know, memorandums, Homeland Security, come up with proposals of smart gun technology. But if you notice that, the largest purchaser of firearms is the federal government. You know, if they really believe in reducing gun violence, why do they keep on buying guns? And matter of fact, if they really wish to set an example, why don't you give up your guns? Because that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You know why? Because if they gave up their guns, that would mean that, you know, people would choose not to have a state. When I say state, I'm talking about a governing body of some sort, whether it's a state or the federal state or federal government. When I say the state, I'm talking about an entity that was created by people to serve the people in a limited, you know, in America at least, in a limited fashion, very limited. Like, I want you to, you know, clean the toilets after I take a shit in the public restroom. Kind of like that kind of limited, you know. Pick up the dog shit in the at the park. You know, keeps the park clean. You know, go ahead, you know, patrol the borders, but that's about the only place you're going to be allowed to patrol. I mean, very limited. So I find it ironic that the largest purchaser is the federal government. At the same time, they're talking about reducing gun violence. This is weird. Now, this is all coming from, okay, I didn't make this up. You could all read it for yourselves. All right, here it is. And you know, if you're gonna get the facts, go ahead and get it straight from the White House. And there it is. There it is. WhiteHouse.gov, the press office, 2006-0106 fact sheet. New executive actions reduce gun violence and make our lives miserable. So, well, it doesn't say our lives miserable, but our. So there you go. I've read it. These executive actions don't do anything other than maybe line the pockets of different regimes, particularly the ATF, the FBI, maybe Homeland Security, and this other department right here. I don't even know what the hell they're called. What is this other background check system? Let me see, Affordable Care Act, blah blah blah. I don't know, some other probably private entity or something like that does the background checking or shit like that. Let me see here. well, through the Social Security Administration and NICS. I don't know what this stands for, but that's the acronym for whatever department or whatever agency that is, or private entity that does the background checking. I mean, other than that, that's about it. Which most people acquire their guns. Most people acquire their guns that way anyway. This isn't going to stop people who. This isn't going to stop gun violence in any way, shape, or form, because this is being done right now. So, anyways, I want to share that with you. You know, and like I said, half my life, I didn't own a gun, and I thought for the longest time, you know, guns were bad and dangerous. Only should be used in a time of war where we're supposedly defending ourselves, which recently, which I don't think we're doing much of that. If anything, seems like we're the aggressor. So there you go. Go ahead and read it. You know, if I had a choice now to have a gun or not have a gun, I would always want a gun. I would always want a gun. Even more now, because the threat level domestically, and you know, the domestic threats and the foreign threats, they've increased. Not the actual violence itself, but the threat, the level of threat has increased. And not only that, but the waves of attacks that are occurring are increasing. And you know, you're facing an adversary that doesn't care about your law, about our laws. They don't care about you. All right, they don't obey the laws that we've all created. Okay, they don't recognize our laws. And another thing is, you know, they're not after money. They're not after, you know, your body. They don't want to rape you or anything, or have sexually molest you. You know, they don't want to jack your car. Although there's people that still do that. I mean, there's still robbers, rapists, murderers, and all that. But the new threat, the new adversary, I would say, I guess you call them adversary, or the enemy, I guess you could say. They want you dead. You know, there's no reason. You know, there's no reason. They're not after your money. They're not after your. They don't want to have sex with you. They want you dead. So when you start hearing the first shot, you're probably thinking, okay, it was a scuffle. Maybe, you know, someone got shot. Then you hear another shot, and then you hear another shot, and another shot, and another shot, and another shot. You have to understand that the threat level has changed, and the state cannot protect you. Only you. The power is within you to protect yourself. It's up to you and nobody else. Now, you know, I'm still going to call the police because I'll need backup, but ultimately your life is within your hands. And if you're going to wait around for President Obama to come over and jump in and, you know, jump in the line of fire, he's not. He's not going to do that. Your congressman, your senator, they're not going to come from out of the sky and jump in the line of fire to protect you. And neither is your local policeman, your sheriff, definitely not the ATF or the FBI. They're not going to come from the sky and then jump in the line of fire. You know, they're not going to do that. Okay? Neither is Homeland Security. All right? or the Department of Defense. None of these entities, bodies, regimes, persons is going to do that. So anyway, that's my opinion on the whole thing, and that's a reason why I choose to bear arms, because the ultimate responsibility of your life is in your hands. Okay. Although the state may come in various ways to, you know, impede in your life, ultimately the state cannot protect you. Okay, it never could protect you in that way. It never could, and that's why the Second Amendment is there, um, so you can protect yourself, and you can fight for yourself, and you know, so you can live, because um, you're more important alive than dead. So, anyways, feel free to like, dislike, leave a comment, or even a video response. Until next time, stay tuned.